What's new in CloudBees CI 2.504.3.28224? On June 25th, 2025, CloudBees CI 2.504.3.28224 was released. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the changes that occurred within that release. Also on June 5th, Jenkins LTS 2.504.3 was released. On June 30th, I did a video with Mark Waite about all the changes in that release. If you would like more details about that release, the link to that video is down in the description. Now, if you've never taken a look at the release notes for CloudBees CI before, let me show you how to get there. We're starting at docs.cloudbees.com. Under the documentation dropdown, we're going to go to CloudBees CI, and then on the documentation dropdown on the left nav, we'll go ahead and select Release Notes. And this is the Release Notes page for all of CloudBees CI. Now, before we take a look at the specific release notes, let's take a look at this important block. If you skip versions when you upgrade, refer to previous versions of the release notes for any relevant known issues or upgrade notes. Well, what does that mean? Well, again, the latest release, 2.504.3, let's say that we're upgrading from a version 2.492.3.5. I would need to take a look at the release notes for every version between that release and the release that I'm upgrading to, in our case, the most current release. As a CloudBees CI client, we recommend an assisted update to help make this upgrade process easier. There is a link down in the description about how to get help with an assisted update. Now, taking a look at the release notes, we see that we have a big red box. We'll take a look at the details of that in just a few moments. First, I want to take a look at the release notes for traditional, and then we'll go take a look at the release notes specifically for modern cloud platforms. For our traditional notes, we'll see here right at the top that there was a security advisory associated with this release. If we go ahead and take a look at these security advisories, we'll see that there's two items associated with Operations Center Context. Now, Operations Center Context is installed on every CloudBees CI controller and also the Operations Center. So take a look at this, but just know that you need to upgrade to 2.504.3.28224 in order to get this fix. Well, let's go back over to our notes for traditional. We'll notice here there were no new features for this release. And then in feature enhancements, there were three. First off, we now have the ability to disable template-based jobs through the UI using a toggle switch. Secondly, backup to AWS S3 bucket supports now custom endpoints. So now there's advanced options you can set up for most S3 compatible endpoints, such as custom endpoints and protocol, custom signing regions, and path style access. And then finally, the CloudBees CI version format change. Starting in this release in June 2025, you'll notice before the versions used to be 2.504.2. Some single digit number. Well, with this release, we can see it's 2.504.3.28224. That last digit, the 28224, it's just a tracking number now. Just sort of like how the single digit was, but now we just have a larger number at the end instead of just a single digit. Let's go ahead and go down into the resolved issues. This very first one is the red box that we saw on the overview page. API tokens created on the Operations Center did not propagate to the controllers using the OpenID Connect or Google OAuth credentials plugins. So if you were using a service account to work with those controllers using either the OIC Auth or the Google OAuth plugin, those tokens that were created at the Operations Center level were not propagating down to the controllers. With this release, that has now been fixed. What this means is this is sort of what we expected to have worked in the past, but now it is actually working for both of those plugins, whichever one you might be using. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the next one here, reclaim threads after WebSocket reverse proxy operations. Now, this is specific to high availability, but I want to call out something because we're going to take a look at another issue that's very similar to this. What we can see is a new thread was spawned and retained for a few minutes anytime a WebSocket agent was connected to a high availability controller. Now, if you're still running Java 17 with your traditional controllers and your traditional Operations Center, this is still going to be true. However, if you are using Java 21 to run both the Operations Center and your controller, then the thread is now reclaimed immediately after use. So keep this in mind because we'll see another issue much like this in just a few moments. The next one I'm going to call out is configuration as code downloads use Jenkins Home for temporary directories. Up until this point, anytime temp directories would happen, it would go right into the Jenkins Home. Usually that's not a big deal, but in the case of HA, where you're using NFS as your shared storage, that's not the greatest thing to do. So from this point forward, what's actually happening is it's using local storage on that machine. And that storage is the system's default temporary directory. And let's scroll down to the last one I want to call out, and that is the avoid thread consumption from trigger remote job. Now again, we're talking about threads. The other issue that we're looking at is a Java 17 and a Java 21. This is the exact same thing. If you're still using Java 17, you're still going to run into this issue with thread consumption. However, if you're already using Java 21, then what's happening is the step is no longer consuming a thread. So let me go ahead and give you a little bit of advice. If you have not upgraded your Operations Center and your controllers to run on Java 21, now is a great time to do it. Let's go take a look at our release notes for modern cloud platforms. And there are only a couple of items that are different than traditional. Number one, under new features in this case, CloudBees CI on modern cloud platforms support Red Hat OpenShift 4.19. However, at this time, Kubernetes 1.33 is not currently supported. Let's go ahead and scroll down to feature enhancements. We still see our top three that we saw over on traditional, but we have a fourth one here. Configuration as code bundle service can be deployed in a multi-cluster setup. So if you're using the bundle service now, it can now run across multiple namespaces and clusters. And then finally, down in resolved issues, there are two items: added an ingress rule in network policy to allow connection from different namespaces, and then also duplicate pod disruption budget generation when overriding it via an advanced YAML field. Both of those have been resolved. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on X at CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.